Hello class, welcome to week 2 of BUAD 301 Advanced Business Communication. I hope you guys had a wonderful first week and I want to welcome you to week 2. We have quite a few things this week, so I want to go over each thing so that way there is no confusion for you on what you need to complete. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and scroll down to week 2, which is August 28th through September 3rd. And now that you have a good understanding and you've read chapter 1, during this week we're going to dive into chapter 2 and chapter 5. These chapters will be discussed briefly in this video lecture, and then I want you to also to be sure to read the chapters before watching this video lecture. That way you have a good solid foundation of what we're discussing, what's required. I'm going to go through a few slides in our PowerPoint presentation, and it is very important that you have a good understanding of these chapters already. In addition, we're going to look into the 5-step case analysis method. Now, the tasks to complete for this week, we have quite a few. One of them we have a couple weeks to complete it as well too. So for the first task for this week, I want you to complete the chapter 1 quiz below. Under the file attachments for this week. So if you look under the file attachments for this week, right here we have the chapter 1 quiz. Keep in mind you are only able to take this quiz one time. So let's go ahead and click on it. So please read these directions before starting the quiz. So you're going to have 10 minutes to complete the quiz. You only have one attempt to take the quiz. There will be a total of 6 multiple choice questions. Only one question will display at a time, and once you answer a question, you may not go back to that question. So when you are ready to start, please go ahead and click the start button. It will say, I believe it will say begin quiz now. This just says preview quiz now because I'm in my instructor mode right now. So let's go ahead and go back. The second thing I want you to do is to read chapter 2 and chapter 5 in the rubric. Please make sure to read these chapters again before watching this video. I want to make sure you have a good solid foundation of these chapters. In addition to this reading, you're also going to have to read in your Business Writer Handbook. I want you to read the following 3 sections on coherence, jargon, and press release. They are listed alphabetically in your Business Writer Handbook. So when you do open it, you're going to see that the Business Writer Handbook, it begins with the letter A for our alphabet, and it discusses a few things. So each page is going to be different because I have a teacher's edition. You probably have, I'm assuming you should have the 11th edition. If you are using a 10th edition, it's going to be a little bit difficult because some of these things may not be in there, and there are updated things as well too. So make sure you do have the 11th edition book. And you're just going to find each one of these sections for coherence, jargon, and press release, and make sure you familiarize yourself with what the book says. And then I also want you to watch this weekly class video lecture below. Once I am completed, I will go ahead and put it right here. You'll see under here BUAD 301 Week 2 lecture video, and then you'll go ahead and watch this video as well. And in addition, I want you to watch the case shred lecture and case analysis problem statements video in the PowerPoint below under the file attachments for this week below. So you'll see these 2 items here. The case shred lecture is right here, and the case analysis problem statements is right here. I want you to open up each one of these PowerPoint slides because each one is going to contain a video. So right here I put that information here. Each slide acts as a video and plays as a lecture. All you need to do is hover over the sound icon at the bottom right of each slide and click the play button. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first one, the case shred lecture. Just to give you an idea, it's going to take a little bit while to actually download because it is a big file, but once you do open up, you're going to go ahead and hover over the bottom right corner icon, and it's going to be a volume icon, and once you hover over it, you're going to see the controls to play the actual PowerPoint. So once this opens up, you're going to see this volume button here. Just go ahead and click play, and we should be able to hear Professor Catherine Sense's voice on here. Let's make sure your volume is up.
This lecture will cover how to prepare a case for class-wide discussions and written case analysis memos.
So please go through all of these slides. Make sure you listen to her lecture for each one of these slides. That way it will give you a good idea of a case analysis, what is a case analysis, etc., etc. So let's go ahead and close this out. And then the same thing here, I would like you to watch the case analysis problem statements lecture as well too. And finally, I want you to review and complete your press release assignment. This is going to be due on Sunday. This should actually say, let's go ahead and fix this right now. It should not say December 12th. This should say September 10th. So let's go back down to it. And your press release assignment is down here. Today we're going to go over a few documents on how to write a press release, but before we do, I want to show you this press release assignment here. You're going to click on it, and you're just going to complete the attached press release assignment in a Microsoft Word document. Once complete, upload it here by the due date of September 10th at 11:55 p.m. So once you click on this PDF, your press release assignment will open up. So first, what I would like to do is I would like to discuss a few different items that we're going to be going over throughout the semester. So a case analysis. We're going to be looking at different cases. That is why you purchased the case book online. If we scroll up here, this book that you purchased here, it's a case book and it has 5 different cases in it. So we're going to be looking into what makes a case. What is a case study? Why do we look at a case study? What is the whole point of it? How do we analyze it? So what I want to do first is discuss the 5 steps case analysis. Now I have a full version here and a condensed version that I uploaded for your records. I'm going to go through the full version, and the condensed version is pretty much all the cliff notes of the full version. So let's go ahead and take a look at this document here. So BUAD case analysis shred. This is the expanded, the full version. So analyzing a business case, it involves time and effort, and that's something that we're going to be doing when we're looking at those cases in the case book that you purchase. And an effective analysis or shred, this is tearing something down into smaller parts, is not quickly scribbled down in a few minutes before class. The secret of any successful analysis is the integration of higher level critical thinking skills combined with a careful reading and interpretation of all of the pertinent details within the case. So you're going to be shredding this case. You're breaking it down to figure out what the issue is and providing solutions for it. A thorough case shred requires an analysis that probes beyond surface information, beyond what is obvious on a first or second reading. Identifying and explaining each step is not always easy. Sometimes there is no right answer. Nevertheless, each aspect of the case must be scrutinized. Remember, if the process were easy, we wouldn't be practicing the shred. The long-term payoff, however, is well worth the labor today. Far too many individuals in business do not take the necessary steps to think through problems, decisions, and consequences, as evidenced by the numerous negative news stories resounding through the halls of corporate America. So the whole point of looking at a case study is we're going to be shredding it. We're going to look at this case study and figure out, okay, what is the issue here? It's not just going to be what's on top of the surface. We need to dig down a little deeper and figure out there's a deeper issue here. We're going to look at this and we're going to analyze it. We're going to provide a couple solutions, and then we're going to pick one of those solutions for which one we feel is the best. So, in class, such as today, we'll analyze case problems by a systematic process known as the problem solving sequence. And this was developed by John Dewey and discussed in our book in Appendix A, Analyzing a Case Study. The case analysis represents a powerful learning tool designed to promote the development of analytical problem solving and critical thinking skills. This is something that you're going to have in your first job. When you're working in corporate America and you have your first job or internship, you're going to have to learn how to solve problems. So, process. Shreds must be tight. So for step one, I want you to read the case completely. You're always going to get a case. So in your case book that you purchase, you're going to have 5 cases. Make sure to read the case completely from start to finish. Reread the case with a writing utensil in hand, making notes as you read, either on the case itself or on a separate piece of paper. Read the case for a third time, underline key terms, key players, key stakeholders, and key issues that must be addressed. The better you understand the elements and details within the case, the easier the problem solving process becomes. So, this is why I recommend reading it 3 times. The first time you read it, you don't take any notes. The second time you read it, you take notes. And the third time you read it, you really look into the key terms, the key players, and you underline these issues so you have a good understanding. Then, step two, I want you to pre write and take notes. So your notes on the case should focus on the details you will need in order to identify the business problems faced by managers, the issues critical to solving the problems, the available resources on which managers can draw to determine an appropriate course of action, and of course, which details included in the case can be delegated to background information. So consider the following to help with your brainstorming note taking. So define and state the problem. After reading the case, define the problem and state the problem. What is the problem? Decide on the short term objectives and the company's long term goals in this case. State the facts of the case and analyze how they played a part in the problem. Step three, I want you to specifically state the business problems facing management. There's going to be some kind of problem that management faces. Typically, at least one fundamental business problem is present. Problems can include tactical issues such as how a customer can collect monies from delinquent accounts to larger and broader problems such as problems associated with the company's cash flow. Keep in mind that you may identify more than one problem and in complex cases often address several simultaneous problems. And then list the different problems or issues you see and state them in the form of a question. So a question of fact asks whether something is true or false. The answer can be verified. A question of value asks whether something is good or bad, desirable or undesirable. A question of interpretation asks for the meaning or explanation of a term. A question of policy asks what actions should be taken. So develop a problem statement. After answering these questions, recognize the most significant problem and state it in 1 or 2 sentences. For example, EK&G Products has low sales and high per unit costs, resulting in low profits. That is a problem statement. It's to the point. Let me give you another example. If I told you my foot was hurting, that really isn't the problem statement. That's kind of the result. My foot is hurting as a result for something else. Why is it hurting? We need to identify what the problem is. Is it a bruised bone? Is it a broken bone? Is it a fractured bone? Is it just a sprained ankle? So you can see there are a lot of problems that could really take me into the issue of my foot hurting. But my foot hurting is not the problem itself. That's the conclusion. Finding the problem is how we go deeper down into the surface and figuring out what kind of problem this organization has. Step four, specify objectives for the managers involved. Think about feasible desired outcomes as if you were a consultant asked to participate in solving the business problems. Don't restrict yourself to just thinking what the company ought to do, rather consider the most successful and desired outcome. Step 5. Identify and rank the order of the critical issues. Herein lies the heart of the case. If you miss a critical issue, you miss the opportunity to solve the case to the satisfaction of involved stakeholders. Identify least to most critical. Remember that some issues are interdependent, meaning they depend on other issues. Some issues are more important than others. Each issue has a time dimension. Some issues are merely symptoms of larger or deeper problems. That's going back to my foot issue. Step 6, consider relevant information and underlying assumptions. Accept that most of the information included in the case will not be useful and that you will never have as much information as you want to produce a solution. Such is life. Unfortunately, not all life's problems have neat, tidy endings. So make a list of significant facts and events. Example, with a small number of sales, the unit cost soared to over $250. Find and list what affect marketing dynamics, competitive factors, foreign competition, government regulations, etc. have on your organization. What factors in the organization are crucial? Has a merger had an effect on the organization's culture? What about internal issues such as just-in-time manufacturing, quality assurance, or human resource management? How do these operations affect the organization's competitive advantage? What are your resources? Your investments, facilities, cash flow, ROI, and budget are at the bottom line of strategy formulation and influence your analysis. So you can see there are a lot of things that are going to go into a case analysis and understanding what the issue is. Identify the relevant facts in the case and consider them carefully. Separate facts from assumptions. Recognize further that need to subjectively interpret and assume other evidence not directly stated. You want to think of other things that aren't stated in the case. What else can be an issue? Support your underlying assumptions with information and facts found in the case. Don't confuse cause and effect. Distinguish between facts, inferences, and opinions. Find factors that the company or management can control. List your assumptions. For example, a target market is not clearly defined, very clearly stated. Step 7, list possible solutions to the problem. There is always more than one solution to every problem. Listing possible solutions is a form of brainstorming which will later allow you to assign values to your ideas. For example, find a small segment of retail stores or customer-intensive food service locations and market to that segment. As you identify solutions, list advantages and disadvantages to each. Consider the following. Write 2 or 3 alternative solutions to the problem and evaluate advantages and disadvantages of each. Now, in this class, you're only going to need to write 2 different solutions. But for those 2 solutions in your case study that you produce, I want you to write the advantages and disadvantages of each. This will help you figure out which is going to be the better solution. Is one solution less expensive than the other? Will one solution be more effective than the other? Will one idea work more quickly? These are questions to keep in mind to figure out which solution is going to work the best. What criteria must you fulfill to accomplish each solution? So, analyze and evaluate alternatives. Limit list to those with superior payoff. Relevant data bolsters the discussion of pros and cons of each. Select the preferred alternative, predict outcomes, and choose the most reasonable solution. So step 8, choose the best solution and recommend the action you can support with evidence. Show why the ideas you thought superior will work. Use logic and reasoning and evidence. For example, E, K, and G should examine the viability of the entire XYZ venture. If XYZ is a feasible product, E, K, and G should develop a business plan to include how to achieve increased sales in 1 or 2 markets. Remember, be as specific as possible, as the defense of your ideas lies in the details. Remember that. Step 9, decide how to implement the best solution. Having solid ideas are not enough. You must know how to put them to work. Implementation of your solution requires a plan of action. Identify the required specific actions, a timeline, resources, personnel, impact on the organization, and a way to measure results. An example of an action statement follows. Commission sales reps should aggressively pursue sales to restaurants and bars throughout California to stimulate sales and increase production to reduce the per unit cost. Practical application of ideas is what most helpful to managers. Step 10, explain how to communicate the solution. How to communicate the message and to whom. Consider the needs of your target audience and the needs of stakeholders. Think as well about timing. So these outline steps are meant to assist you with the writing applications associated with the cases. So most students tell me that on the hardest aspects of writing is getting started and overcoming writer's block. A detailed case shred incorporates the brainstorming, pre-writing, and preparation stages necessary for the production of a memo or a letter draft. Thus, the case shred is an organized, logical, and systematic means for eliminating those obstacles that stand in the way of getting started. So let's go ahead and close this full version out. What I want to do is look at the condensed version. So this is the condensed shred process. Step 1, define the case problem. Who is the decision maker? Include the title and company. What is the underlying problem and a little background about the case? Um, why does he or she need to address this? Always keep in mind, write the problem statement in 3 to 5 sentences. Step 2, consider facts and underlying assumptions. Step 3, list the possible solutions to the problem. Step 4, select the best solution and prepare to defend it. And the final step, step 5, decide how to implement the solution through a plan of action. So this is what your case study is going to look like when you write one. Without this at the top, this is the format you're going to have. You're going to have the date, to, from, subject. Underneath, you're going to have a problem statement. Underneath that, you're going to have the purpose objective. Then you're going to have alternative solutions, solution 1 and solution 2, your recommended solution that you're moving forward with, and then the action steps that the company needs to take. I'm going to go ahead and put a few examples up on Titanium, especially once we start talking about more cases as well, so you can see what it looks like with format and content. So make sure you have a good idea of the case analysis approach and these 5 steps here. In addition, I went ahead and I made a PowerPoint for you guys to look at. If you click on this week 2 lecture, I talk about the 5 steps case analysis, chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 5. So please make sure to review this entire PowerPoint. I believe it's approximately 30 something pages. It's about 33, 34 pages. But it's a great PowerPoint. It lets you know what is a case, kind of what we talked about. Why do we use the case method? How to prepare a case? And discussing a problem statement. So what is a case? A case is a description of an actual or fictional situation. This commonly involves a challenge, an opportunity, a problem, or an issue faced by a person or an organization, and a decision or decisions need to be made. So here's what most cases look like. You have your opening paragraph, the organization background, specific area of interest, specific problem, alternatives, and of course the conclusion. So please make sure to go through this PowerPoint lecture as well. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to jump into our next topic of press releases. I've made a folder here called Press Release Documents that I'd like you to look over. And we'll go ahead and go over a few of these. So here first, I uploaded a PR Newswire boot camp of a press release, giving you an idea of what you need to know for a press release. That is setting up an account. Okay, so let's look at formatting for a press release. You have a headline. Your headline will grab your reader's attention and make them want to read more. Statistics and numbers make for great headline content, and bonus points if it's enabled for social sharing. 80 to 100 characters is ideal. Build out detail in your subhead. So here's what a press release will look like. I'm going to show you actually what it's going to look like in our next example. You have a lead paragraph. So lead paragraph is the hook of your story. This should be concise and to the point and answer the 5 W's. Who, what, where, who, what, when, where, and why. Then the second paragraph, once you've grabbed your reader's attention, be sure to add in relevant details and story nuances. Use shorter, attention-grabbing sentences or bullet points to facilitate social sharing. Stand out with multimedia. Visual and audio elements drive audience engagement and interaction and can help your story and content go viral on social channels. So take a look through this. This talks a little bit more about press releases, how they work, and certain items you can include or not to include. And this PR Newswire document talks about PR approaches, discusses frequency of communication is important for brand awareness. The more you communicate, the more you're able to give that brand awareness to people. Sending out press releases to newspapers, TV stations, journalists, whomever it may be. Frequency of communication is definitely important for brand awareness. So make sure to read through this as well too. So let's look at a press release. This was done by Google. You can see it's 1 page long. Let me go ahead and zoom out so you can get a better view. It's 1 page long. So Google Scholar indexes open access books. So the length of monographs and their level of treatment pose unique challenges in search environment. Monographs generally describe mature work, unlike journal articles, etc., etc., etc. So this helps talk about Google Scholar, how it's used, and the benefits of having it. And make sure again to look at those press releases in your business writer handbook to get an idea of formatting. So what I've done is I've included a press release template for you here. Just kind of give you an idea of what it can or cannot look like. Here you have the date, your contact name, phone number, email address. It says here for immediate release. The title goes here. Person or business names in caps, of city, state in caps, goes here, and then you begin typing what you're talking about right here. Very simple, very easy to use, very easy to understand. So here's a press release example for a small business. So very similar to what we showed before. Make sure you have a good understanding of what you need to include, what you need to have. Remember, a press release, it includes the most important information at the top. So let's go ahead and take a look at your press release assignment. Click on this link here. Let's go ahead and click on the assignment. So purpose. This assignment is a press release. A press release should be written in a style that would make it appropriate for public distribution. So the situation, you work for Starbucks in the public relations office as a PR specialist. Your current assignment is to write press releases covering continuing efforts to improve customer service. Briefly describe what Starbucks found out about its service and what steps it took to make the customer service experience better for their customers. Back in 1982, Howard Schultz had a vision to create a coffee enterprise. Recently, Christine Day came up with a plan to invest in their corporate stores to increase customer satisfaction. So take the most salient parts of this case study and write with brevity and vigor as you complete this one-page press release. So your writing task, write a press release that announces a $40 million investment by Starbucks in their own stores to improve customer service. Use the format discussed. Tell the audience exactly what they need to know quickly and clearly. Also determine which details are necessary to include and which can be left out. Expected student outcomes. This assignment will prepare you to write materials aimed at the public. Since reporters will also be reporting on the event, it is up to you to provide enough information to protect the company's reputation without confusing them by giving too much data. Your assessment. The class rubric will be used. Be as specific as possible and give details as appropriate. A vague, undeveloped discussion will affect your grade significantly. This assignment is worth 40 points. Other important points of this: don't lift sentences or phrases from the case. This is plagiarism and result in a failing grade. So use correct electronic press release structure. Keep in mind that your audience is the general public. Keep your tone professional at all times. Use the third person, use this third person. I want you to avoid you, we, are, and us. This needs to be written in third person. Remember that this should be similar to a story one would read in a newspaper. Organize your time. Be sure to leave enough time to spell check and proofread carefully. Sloppiness and grammatical errors will have a severe impact on your grade. So again, make sure to look at the press release examples in the Business Writer Handbook. This is where they show the different formatting options. What I like to do is even Googling press release format can help you get a good idea of what you need. So let's look at this one, press release format instructions and easy to use template. So how to write a press release. You have a logo, you have contact info, a release date, and headline. Subheadline, dateline, first body, paragraph, or main or body. It really breaks it down. You can even click on images to see the different press releases. So you can see there's different press releases. You can take a look at them. This is what I want you to do. I want you to write your press release in the format that follows the Business Writer Handbook, and I want you to provide the information that you feel is necessary. Remember, this class, you need to come up with information outside of the case study. So in this example with Starbucks, they're investing $40 million into their company. What other information can you put in there that you feel will be important and necessary? This is where you're going to have to make up information to help support your case moving forward. So once you're done, go ahead and click on here, upload it through here. Remember, it's not due this Sunday. It's going to be due the following Sunday on September 10th. I wanted to give you guys a little extra time to complete this since this is your first big project. And as a reminder, next week for week 3, we will not have class on Monday, September 4th, as this is a recognized holiday. It's going to be Labor Day. So content for week 3 will be uploaded on Tuesday, September 5th by 10 o'clock a.m. So again, guys, make sure you complete all these tasks here. That way you can make sure you get credit for this week and you complete all the necessary assignments. I want to wish you all the best of luck, and I will be here if you have any questions whatsoever.